over the best bets for week 3 in the NFL. What's going on, buddy? How are you?
I am doing good, man. Looking forward to jumping into all this stuff. It's been, an interesting start to the season. I think we've seen with the offenses not really getting things together, kind of being a bit slow. Last night, it was nice to see at least one quarterback get back to his old self and Aaron Rodgers with the Jets. Obviously, the Patriots not as exciting, but hopefully we get some better games coming up this weekend.
Yeah, I think that there's a few on the slate that'll be fun. Yeah, Aaron Rodgers looking good last night. The Patriots kind of looking how I expected the Patriots to look. So nothing that really caught my eye out of like surprise last night. But today, best bets for week 3. Eli and I will each give our 5 best bets and then a parlay to close the show. So we'll start off. I'll give you my first one. I'm taking the under on Browns Giants. It's at 38.5. I think that the Giants, usually they'll play well against Washington. Like Daniel Jones, you look at his numbers historically, he does pretty well against the Commanders. And of course, everybody, at least a lot of people that I've seen are like, oh, okay, well, Daniel Jones played well in week 2. Maybe that'll translate into week 3. No, he's playing a Browns defense that I think is probably going to eat him alive. I think it's going to be a low-scoring game on both ends because the Browns offense is also very bad, and their quarterback is very bad. I talked about this yesterday in the Pump Fake with JP Acosta. Maybe the worst quarterback matchup in terms of how much money they're being paid for how much production they have given their teams in the history of football. So I'm going to take under 38.5 Browns Giants for one of my best bets. That feels like a very easy, I don't know if it's a lock, but it feels pretty damn close to one.
Yeah, I really cannot argue on that. Browns Giants, 2 of the least exciting offenses in football. And as you said, the Browns have a great defense. I think the Giants could easily be held to 10 points or less. So under 38.5 seems great to me. And I'm actually going to stick with the over-under theme on this one and go over to Minnesota, Houston, and do the over on 45.5. I think both of these offenses have looked pretty great throughout the last 2 games. The Vikings obviously looking a lot better than I think people expected. Sam Darnold and Justin Jefferson seem to have a good connection going there. You have Aaron Jones. The Vikings, they will be missing Jordan Addison, but that did not hurt them last week when they beat the 49ers. So I think with the Texans, obviously high-flying offense, I don't have to tell you about all the weapons over there. I think this game could end up being a shootout and a really exciting one for betting and fantasy and anything else.
That's one in terms of the over-under I'm kind of leaning away from because I think it could go either way where we have a shootout and Stroud and Darnold just exchange blows. Or this is the week where Sam Darnold looks like Sam Darnold and the offense doesn't look good. So for your sake, I hope that it's the former rather than the latter. And we get it's going to be a fun one just because even if it isn't, necessarily the high scoring back and forth, I think seeing CJ Stroud going against Brian Flores' defense, who have a bunch of guys playing really well right now. Blake Cashman's doing well, Andrew Van Ginkel, Harrison Smith in the middle. Like they have a bunch of dudes that are showing out in Minnesota. So that will be a very fun one. I am going to stick with that game though and take Texans minus 2.5. Because I think I'm banking on the Vikings kind of coming down to earth a little bit. We see a lot of this like early on in the season, I think throughout each year. Like a couple years ago, I mean, as a Packers fan, you remember when Jameis threw 5 touchdowns against Green Bay in week 1 and everybody was like, oh my God, the Saints are great. And then, after like week 3, week 4, everybody's like, oh yeah, Jameis is Jameis and the Saints are just kind of I think we're going to kind of see that with Minnesota a little bit. Houston to me, man, like that's one of the biggest contenders in the AFC. So I'm very big on the Texans this year. Not so much on the Sam Darnold train that a lot of other people seem to have hopped on. So I'll take Houston minus 2.5 in week 3.
Yeah, I like that one a lot. I was going back and forth between that and the over. And if there's a defense that can go and immediately take Sam Darnold from a bit of a riding high to back to Sam Darnold world, it would be DeMeco Ryans' defense in Houston. So we'll see how that one shapes out. I think it should be a good game either way. But for me, looking, this might be a bit of a large number to some people, but I just think Tampa Bay right now is playing some really great football, and Bucks minus 6.5 against the Broncos in Tampa Bay. If it was in Denver, maybe I feel a little differently, but
Yeah.
Bo Nix just can't move the ball. That offense is dreadful. Pat Surtain might give Mike Evans some issues, but Chris Godwin has been great. Rashad White, Bucky Irving in the backfield. I think the Bucs put up somewhere between 20 to 28 points, and I doubt the Broncos get past 13 to 16-ish. So give me the Bucs -6.5 against the Broncos.
Yeah, Tampa Bay's been fun already. And seeing how Baker Mayfield plays has been really just for a guy who went through so much going from Cleveland, then the Carolina, Los Angeles, finding a home in Tampa Bay. It's cool to see him ball out. Tied for the league lead and touchdown passes with Derek Carr. So just how everybody expected. Two South Florida lead the NFL in touchdown passes through a couple weeks. Denver, I mean, as a Steelers fan, I saw a lot of the Broncos, obviously, on Sunday. They're putrid. Not good. Bo Nix is, and I said this coming into the year with Nix, and it's not necessarily to root against somebody. You know, I hope he has a long and good career. But for a guy who spent such a long time in college, had to leave Auburn because he wasn't a drop back quarterback, like the writing was kind of on the wall there for me in terms of what he could be as a long-term franchise quarterback in the NFL. I just don't think he has that to him. So I think that Denver is going to be in for a rude awakening. I wouldn't be surprised if he's a one and done guy in Denver. I think we could see like a Josh Rosen type situation with the Broncos where they're like, all right, we failed there and we just know that he's not it.
Yeah. So I just think also because of his age, right? It's not like you can say, oh, he's 21 years old. He has time to develop. Like if there's any quarterback in this year's draft that needed to come in and basically be pro ready, it kind of had to be Bo Nix. And Deshaun Payton, the perfect fit. It's going to be great. And so far, I mean, look, I haven't watched him the way you have because the Steelers already have played them, but I've seen enough of him to see that it looks really ugly right now. So I'm pretty confident in the Bucs in this one.
All right. I'm going to stick in the AFC South with mine. So I'm going to take the Colts -1.5 against the Bears. The Colts have been very much two sides of the same coin in the first 2 weeks of the year, where they look good against Houston and fall just short, and then playing against your Packers, who were playing Malik Willis, when everybody and their mother knew what the Packers were going to do that game. They were going to run the ball. They weren't going to let Malik Willis lose the game for them. And the Packers ran the ball for over 200 yards in the first half. So that being said, I do like Chicago's defense, and I think that Caleb Williams is going to be fine, but we've seen some growing pains early on. The offensive line isn't giving him a ton of time to create. So I think the Colts will get their first win of the year against the Bears, and I think they'll do it by somewhere in the range of 3-7. I don't think it's going to be a blowout by any means, but I do think that I'm confident enough in that to take them -1.5.
Yeah, it's pretty. I don't know. It's pretty ballsy because, I like the Colts as a team more than the Bears right now. But the Bears defense, if the Packers defense took care of Anthony Richardson pretty well, the Bears defense might even do a better job. But like you said, the Bears offense right now is not inspiring a lot of hope. And I do think there's something to a team being 0-2 with their back really up against the wall. You go 0-3 in the NFL. It's really hard to get out of that hole. And I do think Indy at home should be able to pull it out. Obviously, I do hope that is the case, if I'm being honest, as a Packer fan. But moving back to the NFC, it's actually a NFC-AFC matchup here. But Dolphins at Seahawks in Seattle. I got to take the Seahawks at -4.5. I know the Seahawks aren't necessarily, a contending team to most people. But first off, Miami, they have Skylar Thompson at quarterback. Throughout his career as a starter, it's been really, really bad. And Seattle, it's in Seattle, so you're talking about maybe a top 5 environment to play, one of the most difficult places to play. And Geno Smith has looked really, really good, honestly, to start the season. Man. Yeah, Geno's looked great. They have great weapons. The Dolphins, I think right now they're just reeling, which makes sense. Obviously I wish all the best for Tua, but I think right now the Dolphins are kind of grasping at straws, figuring out how is our season going to go from here. And starting that journey in Seattle is not a great spot. So I'll take my Seattle -4.5.
That's one that I'll probably follow you on, honestly. Seattle, their defense also, and Mike McDonald looking really good thus far. And even if the Dolphins wanted to go the route of, okay, we'll try running the ball, that might even be a little bit difficult considering how well the Seahawks defense has played. So I think that is going to be maybe one of the more lopsided games of the weekend. I just don't trust Skylar Thompson to give them any sort of competency at quarterback. So good pick on your part. I'm going to go back to the over-under side of things. I'm going to take the under on 37.5 for Packers Titans. I don't think either of these offenses score a ton of points. I will say Will Levis has turned into must-watch TV though for all the wrong reasons, because he's going to do something chaotic and it's going to be a lot of fun. That's what, like last week he threw a really nice touchdown pass to Calvin Ridley, and then he did the exact same thing he did against Chicago, just backwards for a fumble. And then the whole viral clip of Brian Callahan running on the field. What are you doing? Like Will Levis the Will Levis experience is certainly something. So that's a game that I'll be keeping an eye on just because of that. But I think the Packers are going to have a similar approach as they did last week. I don't think they're going to run for over 250 yards in the first half or whatever it was like they did, because Tennessee's run defense is much better than the Colts. And for that reason, I don't think a lot of points will be scored on either end, because I trust Green Bay's defense. I think Xavier McKinney, by the way, has already shown that he's worth his weight in gold. He's got 2 picks in 2 weeks as a Packer. So I will take the under 37.5. If I had to bet, I'd still lean Green Bay to win it. Something like the score of like 14-9, something stupid, like just really low scoring. So I will take the under.
Yeah, I could see that happening. Very kind of run heavy, sloppy-ish kind of game. But I will say, for anyone putting their bets in today, Jordan Love, I don't know, man. The reports coming out are getting more and more positive.
Yeah, is he going to play?
I think I'll put it this way. Maybe I'm being biased or hopeful, but I kind of think Jordan Love might end up playing by the latest report. He practiced all week, limited, sure. But, I mean, the reporters in Green Bay are saying just based off the way he's moving around, he looks pretty good. And Josh Jacobs was just on an interview not even an hour ago, so you probably haven't had a chance to see it. But he said that the players going into last week were expecting Love to play, and they were a little bit surprised. So maybe they hold him out for one more week. And truthfully, even if he does play, let's be real, I'm sure it's going to not be the same Packers offense. They're probably going to still be run heavy. So even if Love plays, the under could hit. But if Love is announced the starter, I think that over-under gets bumped a few points, and maybe you grab the under at that point. But either way, it will probably be one of the lower scoring games of the day. At least I think it will be as a Packer fan. Sure. And then jumping into my last one, I had two that I was kind of going back and forth on. And, I guess I'm going to go with this one. I'm going to go with the San Francisco, another pretty large number, but -6.5 against the Rams. Right now, the Rams are literally, I mean, their number one receiver is Demarcus Robinson. They have no one left. Their offensive line is a joke. Their secondary, their receiving group is essentially a joke right now. Their defense is not going to be able to contain. Even without Deebo Samuel, I think the Niners will be able to do almost whatever they want on the Rams. And also the Niners coming off a bad loss to the Vikings, I think they kind of want to put themselves back on the map as one of the best teams in the NFC. And they found the Rams at the perfect time to do that with most of their best players out of the game.
Right. I will take an over to close mine out. I will take the over 45.5 on Bills Jaguars. The Bills have scored 30 points in both games that they've played thus far. And I think the Jaguars are going to be playing with, their asses on fire a little bit, because if you go down 0-3, then you've really got some issues internally. They're already having players like Travis Etienne was talking after they lost to Cleveland. He's like, yeah, we don't necessarily need great players. We need dudes who want to work. So I was like, God, that is a brutal quote for week 2. Like, that's goodness gracious. And I'm paraphrasing there. I don't think that was the exact quote, but that was kind of the gist of it. But regardless, that's a rough thing to say 2 weeks into the season. So I think it'll be back and forth. I think Jacksonville will give Buffalo a little bit more of a battle than most expect. This is like the Jarrett Bailey Bowl, because Josh Allen's my favorite player. Trevor Lawrence is, right up there as well. So I will be watching this very intently. By the way, I hate when they do 2 games on Monday night. Can we stop doing that? That's awesome.
I'm not into it because it's like, that's not the point of Monday Night Football. The point of Monday Night Football is you have one game of football, all eyes on that game. You're not thinking, am I missing another play? Am I missing, I don't want to have to be watching the Jags Bills, which should be a very fun game, and then have to worry, am I missing Jaden Daniels, breaking a run against the Bengals or something?
Yeah.
I get you want to do as much football as possible, but let's be real. no matter when you play games, people are going to watch it. And I would rather have a nicer 3 o'clock slate or 4 o'clock slate, the afternoon games, than 2 Monday night games. Doesn't really make sense to me.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Like if you want to keep Bills Jaguars for Monday night, because I think that's probably the better overall game, then just give Bengals Commanders like a good 4 o'clock slate. That's fine. You get Joe Burrow against Jane Daniels. That's a fun storyline there to follow. Like there's no reason to do multiple Monday. I hate it so much. But regardless, yeah, I'm gonna take the over 45.5 for Bills Jaguars. Like I said, the Bills have scored 30 points in both games, and I think the Jaguars are going to come out firing a little bit. No Terrell Bernard for the Bills, so they're going to be relying on 2 backup middle linebackers because Matt Milano is also injured. But they've gotten really good play out of their defensive backs. Greg Rousseau and Von Miller have also played really well so far this year. So Jacksonville's really gonna have to dig into their bag to come out on top, and could go back and forth. So I'll take the over there.
Yeah, I like that. It should be a fun game. I just hope the Jaguars offense finally shows up. I mean, the first few weeks have been so ugly from them in general. It's just like doesn't seem to be clicking. Christian Kirk is totally non-existent, which is really weird considering how good he's been. Brian Thomas, though, I mean, he looks like he could be a legitimate star at some point in his career. So I hope we see, a Josh Allen, Trevor Lawrence just back and forth shootout, because unfortunately the other Monday night game kind of feels like it could be over at half, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, Washington's offense isn't very good. The offensive scheming isn't very good. That was my biggest worry when they hired Cliff Kingsbury. It's just like, I don't know how this offense is going to look, man. And so far hasn't looked
getting jobs. Like, how does he keep getting jobs? Honestly, it's frustrating.
I don't know. At the end of the day, the NFL is a big boys club, so I think that's probably got a lot to do with it. You have a YouTube question. So JB and Eli, the Saints have shocked me this year. Think it continues. I was very wrong about the Saints. I came into this year saying, I think they're going to be like one of the worst teams in football. Clint Kubiak, man, has turned around Derek Carr. He's turned around that offense. Last year, I think they were near the bottom 3 in terms of pass attempts out of play action. I think that they were last in attempts out of play action, if I'm not wrong. Yeah. Right now, they're first in play action pass attempts, and Derek Carr has turned into one of the best deep ball throws in football. Rashid Shaheed's tearing it up. Alvin Kamara's back. They've scored 40 points in each of their first 2 games. Like, they are a very fun team, which is the last thing I expected to say going into this year, because they've been one of the most boring teams in the NFL for the past few seasons. So, tip of the cap to New York.
Yeah, I was with you. I had no faith in them. I had no faith in Carr. Their offensive line looked like it was probably going to be the worst in the NFL for a number of reasons. Of course, Ryan Ramczyk not being there. But like you said, it's really all been, I think, Clint Kubiak has really changed the entire situation for the Saints right now. Playing the Eagles, it's a tough matchup, but the way they've been playing, I'm not going to say that I don't think they can go and beat Philly. I mean, it's not like Philly has looked that good. They just blew a game to Kirk Cousins. So the Saints, definitely a very exciting team, and I like it. You know what? I'm nothing against the Saints, so let them be good. I enjoy it.
Yeah, like I think a lot of the stuff that my doubt was more or less focused on was Dennis Allen at head coach. I just think and I still think he's probably the worst head coach. Oh, I don't know, because we still have Brian Dable in the league, who is not doing a great job with the Giants. And I like Brian Dable, but stuff's just not going well there. I don't know. Doug Peterson, if they fall to 0-3, I mean, that's a big disaster class over the last 2 years in Jacksonville. So credit to the Saints. I seem to have been very wrong about them. And they're very fun. And I'm going to very much look forward to watching them play Philadelphia. And if they go up 3-0, if they go 3-0 and the Bucs win, I mean, we got 2 3-0 teams in the NFC South, which who would have thought?
I think everyone was predicting that preseason.
Sure, absolutely. All right, same game. Or sorry, just parlay time. Let me pull mine up real quick here. And again, I'm using FanDuel. If you want to use DraftKings, you can use any sort of sportsbook. We don't have an official sportsbook for the show, but if you want to become the official sportsbook of the show, feel free to do so. I think DraftKings actually just followed me on Twitter, so they're very much. If you're watching this DraftKings, my phone is open. So my 4-leg parlay, I will take the Colts money line over the Bears, the under on Giants Browns, which is at 38.5. We'll go alternate under just to be completely safe for Packers Titans at 41.5. And then I will take Amon-Ra St. Brown to score his first touchdown on the year. That's plus 110. Overall, plus 1054 odds. So $10 to win 105-ish on FanDuel for that parlay.
Matt LaFleur, I mean, we're not surprised here, but Matt LaFleur just said Jordan Love is questionable. They're working through whether he can be medically cleared. So whatever, we'll see on Sunday. But yeah, so that parlay, I'm a big fan. I like throwing that touchdown in there. I think Amon-Ra is overdue to get in the end zone, and against the Cardinals.
It's always that thing that you say is like, oh yeah, he's due. Let's throw him on the parlay, and it's usually one of them that ends up screwing you. But I think that's one that comes through.
No, it was look, he's getting too many targets. He's too good, and the game script should really lend itself to that. So I think it could be a great spot for him. I'm going to go starting with, well, I mean, we already called that one. Fine. So starting with the Saints, Eagles, I really do think there'll be a lot of points. Over 49.5 is a bit much for me. I would probably just alternate over on that. Bring it down to like 46.5. I would feel a little bit better. But I just think the way the Saints offense is looking and the Eagles offense, if there's any part of that team that should work, it should be that. So I like that one. And then give me, Raiders, Panthers. I mean, it's going to be gross, absolutely gross. But I just don't think the Panthers, the Panthers with Andy Dalton kind of leads me a little bit to hope maybe they'll be a little bit better. So I just think if you plus 6.5, I think this could be a total flop to have any faith in the Panthers. But I just don't really have faith in the Raiders right now. So I think the Panthers plus 6.5 with Andy Dalton. Like, I don't know, Jared, what do you think? Like when a team, I've always thought usually when a team gets that switch at quarterback, at least that first week really like kind of revitalizes them and they end up putting up a better performance. Maybe that's just my thought on it. But I kind of think Andy Dalton will do some good stuff for them. And then let me go over to the Cardinals, Lions. I still think as good as the Cardinals have looked, I think the Lions are just the better team. They're coming off a tough loss to Tampa Bay. I think they want to come back from that. So give me just the Lions money line straight up to win that game. And then I am jumping down to Sunday Night Football, Falcons, Chiefs. And I guess to follow your lead, we got to get a touchdown in there. And I think Travis Kelce, he's not starting the year. Yeah, he's due. Look, he's not going to starting this year blanking 0-3 on touchdowns. And the Falcons give up, I think it's like the 6th or 7th most receiving yards and touchdowns to tight ends. So it's one of their weak spots.
Beautifully done.
Pull up the exact odds. Unfortunately, my FanDuel app is being a little bit slow. But while I pull that up, Jared, do you have any other just like prop bets or any kind of fun ideas to throw out there for anyone?
Well, I mean, you're talking about the Panthers and Andy Dalton. Andy Dalton's 4-0 in his career against the Raiders as well. So that's a fun little nugget to throw in there. So let's see. What are his numbers against the Raiders? 708 yards, 7 touchdowns, no picks, 4-0. So if you want to if you're feeling confident in the Carolina Panthers and Andy Dalton, I also think that there's a little bit of too much love going to the Raiders. I mean, 6.5 is a big number for a team that's fielding Gardner Minshew at quarterback. So I think that they're getting a little bit of the recency bias, the comeback win against Baltimore. I don't think they're going to be all that great. Credit to them. Like the defense is good. I'll give them that. But I do think it'll be a relatively lower scoring game, which means that I don't like anytime you got lower scoring games, it's probably best to just take the underdog to cover just because it's hard to, blow out a team when there's not a lot of points. So I can get on board with 6.5, especially with how good Dalton's been. And it's not as if the Panthers don't have dudes. Like, they brought over Deontay Johnson. They drafted Xavier Legette. They still have Adam Thielen, who even at 34 is still a quality, number 2, number 3 guy. It's just defensively, they're absolutely shot to hell. They just don't have anybody who can really make plays on that side of the ball, especially after Derek Brown went down. So
see, that was rough. I mean, to be the Panthers and then to lose probably your best player is just really rough. But I put together that parlay. It is plus so it's $10 to make 102. So
there you go.
Yeah, solid odds. And I just think overall, Kelce touchdown, Lions money line, Eagles Saints over 46.5, alternate total. Panthers plus 6.5. That's how I'm rolling.
Beautiful, beautiful. Concept says the NFL. I don't know the NFL fined Derek Carr for the Michael Jackson celebration.
They did, which is ridiculous. Like, grow up. I'm so sick of the NFL finding over celebrations when you have guys doing who knows what and nothing happens. Like, it's kind of silly.
Yeah, don't celebrate like Michael Jackson, but have fun doing whatever Deshaun Watson's done the past few years, and we'll still let you play and get $230 million guaranteed. And it's such a crooked league. By the way, this game's brought to you by Bud Light, so enjoy. It's such a ass backwards type thing that the NFL does, and anytime. I mean, I remember in 2016, it was a huge issue where players were getting fined weekly for just celebrating. So I don't want to see that come back. I think that this is allow guys to show emotion, allow guys to have fun. It's a game at the end of the day. So I agree. That's very dumb. I wonder if it's because the crotch grab. Maybe that's all it was. But even so.
Yeah. But I mean, to be honest, I don't know. It didn't look like certain celebrations where whether there's pumping of the thrusting, whatever they want to call it, the 3 hip thrusts, whatever. Sure, you don't want guys going out there doing overly sexual stuff, but he was clearly doing a dance move. It wasn't like a sexual thing. So, but overall, like you said, just let the guys have fun. It's not hurting anyone. You're just celebrating.
Yeah, I very much agree. What, by the way, and excuse me for being so white, what is this? Is that supposed to simulate cocaine? Because everybody does that. I haven't seen one guy get fined for that.
Yeah, I don't know. I assume it has to be drug related, but I've seen people do it. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not really sure. Honestly, when you did that, I was like, oh God, I know I barely have a mustache, but are you calling out my mustache right now?
No. I'm saying
I know. I see the guys do that. The guy will get a sack and just be like that. Exactly. And it's I don't know what the hell it is. I don't know.
Or is it just wipe your nose? Is that's a saying of some sort, isn't it? Wipe your nose or something. I don't know.
Could be. I'm out on all the slang. I
am too. I think I've reached the age where I'm just I'm not into TikTok. I think that's where I reached it. As soon as I realized I think TikTok's dumb, I'm probably just kind of aging out of this.
Yeah, I've also noticed more and more internet trends or internet things that I'm just totally I'm not even paying. Right now, this hippo moodang thing going on. Have you seen this hippo?
I don't. Yeah,
I have no idea
what it is,
where it came from, and I'm not interested. I'm not going to go and look. Why are people talking about a baby hippo? I don't care.
Yeah.
I just don't. There's too much going on in my life to follow all this nonsense.
I agree. Stop finding the NFL stop finding players for celebrating NFL. It's very douchey of you. All right. That is week 3 best bets. Eli, where can they follow you on the old Twitter?
As always, you can find me on Twitter at bookofeli_NFL. And that's where you'll find really all my work, any of my writing. If you're looking specifically, for your Packer fans out there, head over to PackerReports.com. But if you're too lazy to do that, it'll all end up on Twitter at bookofeli_NFL.
And follow me on Twitter at JBaileyNFL for all the written content. Go to snooze.com as well as SB Nation. Appreciate y'all for tuning in. If you're not already, subscribe to the channel. And we'll be back next week for more best bets. Enjoy the weekend of football. See you guys then.